Hello and welcome to another episode of Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
I'm Sara.
Jesi. Kaila.
And I'm Josh. And today we're going to be going over a short story by Franz Kafka. And that is called The Judgment. I read it from this Complete Stories collection. This is every short story that he's written.
I downloaded it offline. Same.
But, everybody, it's going to be an interesting discussion, but Franz Kafka is still a remarkable writer, no matter what anybody says.
I feel like he's covering himself now.
But the discussion starter that I have for this discussion is, Franz Kafka completed The Judgment in a single night. What do you feel this says about the writer's connection to this work, but in particular, Kafka's connection to this story?
I think if he was able to sit down and write this in one sitting in a night, obviously it's something that, write what you know, so I think that it's got to be in relation to his life. I think it has to be something similar to a memory, if not a memory, something that came from inside.
Maybe that he does actually have a strained relationship with his father.
And
strange. Yeah.
He most certainly had a strain. That's exactly the point, because Franz Kafka had sisters, 3 or 4 sisters. I want to say it's 3 of them, but his father was the dominant force in the household, and he was always pushing himself on the insecure, not meeting up to standards son that Franz Kafka was to him. And I can argue that Franz Kafka's writing is about one of 3 things. In the beginning, which is The Judgment is toward the beginning of his writing, it's his father fearing stage. You see it in the Metamorphosis, and you see it here too. He's never able to live up to his father's expectations no matter what. The other stages are his quest for salvation as a Jewish man, and then toward the end of his life, the monster that is the tuberculosis that eventually killed him. As for the story itself, I think that's pretty. It's interesting, the elements that he incorporates. His friend that goes off to Russia, the woman that he's about to marry. Which that's funny that because he was getting engaged, but he was never able to close in on a relationship in the result of marriage, and then eventually his mother isn't even alive in this story. The mother is dead, and in the fact that the mother wasn't able to help with his relationship with his dad, it's a bit. I think it's a strategy, I suppose.
I don't know. Overall, I kind of found the story to. I don't know. I just kind of found it lacking. I mean, I can definitely see, the connections between the strained relationship of his father, missing the mother, wanting to live up to his expectations, but at least the copy I had spent 2 pages talking about a friend that he refused to name.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, if this is supposed to be about, a strained relationship with your father, why are we still on this friend who you're like, he's my friend, but I don't think I'm going to tell him that I'm going to get engaged or that I am engaged, because what if he feels bad that I'm engaged and he's not? And I don't know, I just
There's something very complex with his friend, because his friend, the way that he responds to the whole, the way that the friend expressed sympathy toward his mother's death was very
he
bland.
said dry, and...
Yeah, it was so dryly that the grief caused by such an event, one had to conclude, could not be realized in a distant country.
Yeah, but, even so,
when he left the country, it almost seemed as if he didn't care anymore.
Which is all fine, but that's on his end. Not like, I mean, I don't know. If you're my friend, I would want to tell you, like, oh my gosh, I just got engaged.
And even still, like, tell him, and if he doesn't care, like, who cares?
Okay,
like, stop talking to him.
yeah,
You know, like, I don't know. This whole work was just kind of left me a little bit stumped. Like, it was over, and I was just kind of like, okay.
The way that it ended was a little bit weird.
Yeah.
When his father almost sentenced him to his death, and he ran out into the public and then jumped off a
Well,
bridge.
that was the other thing that got me too. How it's just like in the beginning, he's sitting there and saying, "Okay, well, I'm going to tell my friend how happy I am. I'm engaged, so I'm getting married. I have this wonderful woman.
Business is going well.
Business is great. You know, my dad is." Like, whatever, I know he was saying something about being, like, a business partner with his dad or something along those lines. And then he's like, okay, Dad, you're getting old, let me help you to bed. Go drown. And he's like, okay, and runs out the door and jumps off a bridge and dies. And it's like...
It was very
what?
I think a lot of it is, like, better understood if you know more about Kafka. And I think just reading the story off the bat, you're not connecting it with, like, much in his life. I had to do, like, a lot of
I think that you have to know about Kafka in order to understand his works, especially something like this. I think the Metamorphosis was a bit more detailed, and it was a bit more...
That one, like, I didn't like Metamorphosis very much because, like you, I read it in high school, but I understood it better than I understood this. Like, I don't know, to me, it didn't make sense to me.
There were more, I don't even know if you can call them visuals, because technically Kafka didn't want a visual image of Gregor Samsa as a bug, or as an insect or a vermin. But in the judgment, it was, you just put him in ordinary details, and this really... This was something that was very close to Kafka himself. This is probably the story that reflects his relationship with his dad the clearest without the magical realism that comes with Metamorphosis.
And I feel like Judgment also reflects on his relationship with his, what's his wife's name? Well, I think it was during when he was writing this around that time.
Frida.
Yeah, Frida, right. I think he was engaged to her at the time, or married, I'm not sure. But he was conflicted because he liked just spending all of this time being alone writing, but he also wanted to jump into maybe it would be nice if I, like, had a family, and he was a bit conflicted, and I think the friend in the story is almost who he wanted to be, but he also maybe wanted to try having a family or a partner.
I guess that's kind of like a different twist on it. I like, even that to me, like, kind of clarifies a few things more than just, I feel like, how it was written.
Yeah, taking it at face value.
Yeah,
Because I don't think I've ever read anything by Kafka before, and I don't know anything about him or his life or anything like that. So, like, I took this pretty much at face value.
Yeah, I mostly did too, and that's why I think I found it so confusing, because I was like, okay, even if you have a strained relationship with your father, you're telling me that you have all these wonderful things happening, and just because he tells you to go die, you're just like, okay, I'll go die and go kill yourself.
Kafka's he's a very insecure person, and I think that he's openly admitting that he has a lot of flaws and a lack of self-confidence. Which that's pretty much what the story is. Some of the details, like go jump off a bridge, is a bit. It's a bit. What's the word? It's
like over the top.
It's over the top, but Kafka's an absurdist writer,
right?
And so I think that the way that he's interpreting it is, I think it fits its bill.
Oh no, I took it as, wow, like, yeah, okay, he's your father, I get it, but his opinion matters to you so much that you're going to forget all of those other wonderful good things about your life and just end it because he said so.
It's Kafka taking his own relationship with his dad and blowing it out of proportion. And It's interesting how the name is the character George. His name is very similar to Gregor in Metamorphosis, and they both have to do with insecurities with their dads.
Yeah.
So it's just a trend because Kafka has those ongoing trends that you can see. That's how the Judgment, the Metamorphosis as father fearing, the Hunger Artist, and Burroughs as the Burrow as the TV stage. Josephine the Mouse Singer as the Jewish salvation. It's just so many. I don't even know how I would classify the female colony, but I think you get, if you know about Kafka, it's much easier to understand his work.
I think I found it very strange when I read that the father was writing letters to the friend. Like,
that was
why would,
quite
why would
like,
the father care this
why?
much about the friend? I think Kafka was trying to convey how I think his father knew the Kafka better that wanted to just write and be by himself all day. Right, yeah, and now that he was just growing older and growing as a person, him having to take care of his own family, he wouldn't be able to do as much for his father, maybe?
But then the father points a lot of things out. The idea, why is he thinking so much about his friend when he's got a fiancée that he's about ready to marry? The idea that he is letting his sexual desire get in the way of his friend's greater needs, his mother's will, and his father's health and well-being, which to him it almost seems like his father's just a physical burden because he has to carry him to bed and change his diaper and whatnot.
Which, oh no, poor you have to take care of the man who took care of you. Like, and that was the other thing that I didn't. It's like, that's what happens. You get old, so you're just going to expect your kids to say, okay, when you get old, like, no, that's not how this works. Like, shut up.
And I don't think he, lamented having to take care of his father that much anyway, because he even says, as soon as he sees his dad, he's like, we're going to move you into the sunlit room. You guys are, you're going to come stay with me and the fiancé when we get married.
The doctor says, you should be getting fresh air. Let's open up the window.
Right. And he's like,
he seems to want to take care of his father.
Right.
And his father's just being the one well, you're not paying enough attention to me. Stop.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of this read.
But when you're thinking about suicidal tendency, some of it is very much below the surface, and something can tick off and snap.
Yeah,
just look at someone like Anthony Bourdain. We would think he had everything.
Right.
And I actually because you just posted in the discussion of the bell jar not too long ago. And I know I even kind of said in there, it's like, okay, yeah, I do have anxiety or anxious tendencies. But aside from that, I really find it very difficult to kind of put myself in the shoes of somebody who is depressed or suicidal, because I don't really get like that. And so that's probably why I'm not also understanding why he snapped so easily.
Yeah. Sylvia Plath is another prime example. Her in her poetry with Esther Greenwood.
Yeah.
Just that whole... all of that. But
that could be why I didn't enjoy it. I just didn't see I don't know, to me it was just a whole random of I'm happy, go die, okay. And to me it was just I didn't get it.
Similar to Esther Greenwood, where when things are going well, she's going with the flow, but the moment she couldn't get into that creative writing class,
she just instantly couldn't stand it and freaked out. And again, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've just been saying off camera, I have a licensing exam coming up, oh my god. If I fail that, I'm not gonna go crawl in a hole and go, no, I'm just gonna get up and try again. And I feel for example, when we did the bell jar, and now for kind of this story, I just can't relate to the one thing doesn't go right, I need to go do something drastic, and I just don't really understand that snap.
There are people that are that way, though.
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
It was okay.
It sounded so forced. I was not a fan. I mean, I can see how there can be some meaning to some people in it, but I don't know. I didn't get it.
I think if I had never read this work, I would have survived.
Josh, you're outnumbered.
Yeah, I think you're all wrong. I think that this is, I think for people that are getting into psychology, yeah, this is an excellent character study. I think that it really gives you a great sense of Franz Kafka's writing. There are elements that are a bit, it's hard to believe that they happen so rapidly, but I think that I think you get a sense of Kafka's absurdism. But in this case, it's not absurd the way that the Metamorphosis is. This is very much literary, but there is that little hint of absurdism, the way that Kraft likes to put a hint of Philadelphia cream cheese into all of their shredded cheese products.
I like that comparison.
But if you're interested in checking out Franz Kafka's short works, and I think you should be, here is the complete stories of Franz Kafka. And this is everything from the introductory parables to the longer stories, which range from description of a struggle to Josephine the Singer or the Mouse Folk, and the shorter stories, which range from Children on a Country Road to On Parables. So thank you for tuning in, and be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.
Same.